Welcome to this NLA PechaKucha Innovate London's Emerging Knowledge Clusters. I'm Florence Maschetto, Programme Manager at NLA, and I'm delighted to see so many of you joining this morning. Linked to NLA's recently published report, Innovation Districts, Designing Inclusive Places, this PechaKucha presents a number of London-based innovation clusters since NLA's last report on the life sciences sector in 2020. We have seen this sector grow significantly over the past 3 years, contributing to increased economic growth locally, regionally, and nationally across the UK. But what have been the biggest developments in London? And how are these knowledge quarters striving to be inclusive, place-based, and innovation-led? To answer these questions and more, we will take a closer look at a number of emerging innovation districts across London that feature in the report in a quick-fire PechaKucha-style presentation. Today, we'll hear 5 presentations in total and take questions from the audience, so please add your questions to the Q&A section as we go along. This PechaKucha is part of NLA's Education and Healthcare programme, and I'd like to thank our programme champions, Bidwells, Creative Places, Hind Tillett Steel, Penroy and Prasad, Perkins Wills and Stanhope. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker of the session, Katrina Kilkenny, Innovation Manager at Shift, who will present Shift Stratford's Inclusive Innovation District. Over to you, Katrina.
Thank you, Florence. So 2022 marked 10 years since London held the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I'm sure many of you will remember the highlights, including the 6 gold medals of Super Saturday. But behind all of that, there was a world-first legacy mission to deliver fundamental economic, social, and environmental change within East London, home to some of the most poverty-stricken communities of the capital. The opportunity of the Games and the creation of Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in Stratford was an opportunity to change the lives of people in the 4 neighbouring growth boroughs. And it would drive growth and investment by developing a place where people want and can afford to live, work and visit. The park has indeed brought investment into East London, new homes, transport links, business districts and culture. Across 560 acres, there are green spaces, large venues, roads and waterways, residential neighbourhoods, as well as a range of academic, business and cultural spaces. Development continues as part of the Olympic legacy. By 2036, there will be 5 new neighbourhoods on the park, and this year East Bank will start to open, the largest culture and education district for a generation, bringing together 5 world-class institutions, the BBC, UCL, UAL's London College of Fashion, the V&A and Sadler's Wells. You can imagine that in such a place, innovation emerges naturally. In 2016, the Global Disability Innovation Hub launched, dedicated to driving disability innovation for a fairer world. 2017 saw autonomous shuttle buses trialled at the park, Bird electric scooters in 2018, and driverless pods in 2019. As this is happening in Stratford, there is increasing urgency globally around the climate emergency. In 2020, a new target for London is announced, net zero carbon by 2030, and innovation is central to the conversation at COP26. Innovators need to take the lead in developing solutions that will drive the transformation needed in London and beyond. The impact of major crises are felt acutely at the local level too, as we're seeing now with the cost of living crisis. And too often it's the most vulnerable who are disproportionately impacted. That certainly rings true in East London, where in some areas food banks are seeing a surge of 50%, and there is the highest rate of children living below the poverty line in the UK. People are living in homes that are not well ventilated or heated. There are high rates of air pollution, Tower Hamlets having the highest average daily traffic flow in the country. And we know that the climate emergency threatens to exacerbate existing risks and inequities. But there is opportunity. The park post-2012 has fueled innovative activity, but innovation was happening in this part of London long before the Olympics. East London is made up of dynamic neighbourhoods and a long history of social justice movements. It has been a fertile ground for creativity and experimentation, and is home to hundreds of social enterprises and community organisations responding to everyday challenges. As major institutions make the park their new home, the local communities and the knowledge they hold need to be elevated rather than erased. This is at a very basic level what we mean by inclusive innovation, when innovation takes place behind closed doors and isn't open to platforming a variety of experiences. Solutions remain incompatible with the lives of people who often need them the most. So to reflect, I've talked about the Olympic legacy. We have an urgency to accelerate innovation in response to crises. Around the park, we have pressing local needs, but also significant networks of knowledge, and we have the physical park itself. Combined, this has paved the way for Shift, London's living testbed and the world's first inclusive innovation district. In 2022, Shift was launched and represents the next level in that 2012 legacy. 7 cross-sector organisations came together to have maximum impact through partnership, investment, a mission-led and inclusive approach to innovation, driving opportunities and benefits locally and demonstrating the potential for impact on a global scale. Our mission is to pilot and scale health, climate and mobility innovations that will power better urban futures. As part of this, innovators often need a place to test their idea or product, prove that it works, or roll it out at a wider scale. The Olympic Park is a microcity, a living, changing, real-world testbed, ideal for demonstrating that innovations work. By accessing the park as a testbed, innovators can experiment and collaborate across venues, businesses, universities, and the Shift team is here to help them deploy and promote their product. We're also working to develop a network around the testbed, bringing together cross-sector stakeholders to share, combine and amplify knowledge in ways that will find solutions, drive policy change, unlock investment and scale up action. This past year, we've brought a range of innovation trials to the park, focused on, for example, air pollution and active travel, hearing health in public spaces with startup program Mumbly, and we've launched international partnerships to help startups validate their net zero technologies in the UK. The testbed is officially open for business. We're welcoming innovators from all sectors and backgrounds who are keen to work with us on our mission to build better urban futures. We want to hear from early stage entrepreneurs, scale-up ventures, and citizens who have a climate, health, or mobility solution that they want to bring to life and who support our inclusive approach to widening participation in the innovation economy. As we build Shift throughout 2023, we also welcome new partners who share in our vision to tackle global crises that improve the future of urban living for all. Whether you're a local authority, an accelerator, working in the construction industry, tech, creative services, we're interested in having a conversation around the role that you could play in the Shift Innovation District. 2023 is all about delivery for us. Over the next few months, we'll be launching our network, which will drive collaboration across sectors. We'll look to connect prototypes to investment, academics to industry, local youth-led organisations to local authorities or big companies. We'll be delivering a range of events, open innovation challenges, and of course, a variety of innovation trials. We've had a dynamic start to the year, with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer choosing the park as the place from which to deliver their visions for 2023. Innovation, once again, was recognised by both leaders as key to tackling the major challenges that the people of this country are facing. And we hope that Shift, as a demonstrator district of innovations being physically piloted, accelerated and scaled up, can play a valuable, positive and practical role in the road ahead, both locally and globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Really interesting to see how Shift presents a sort of new model of innovation districts using the park as its testbed. Great. Now I'd like to hand over to our second speaker, Mike Wiseman, Head of Office Leasing at British Land, who's going to present Canada Water. Over to you, Michael.
Good morning. I'm Michael Wiseman from British Land. For those who don't know us, we are a UK REIT working across most sectors and geographies. Our workspace business is focused on campuses, so collections of buildings rather than individual assets. And our portfolio consists of these 5 locations with a potential for about 12 million square foot. The latest of these is Canada Water, and this will be our most exciting project yet. Here we have an incredible opportunity to deliver one of the largest, most sustainable projects in central London for a generation. And this critical mass of 53 acres has been achieved over piecemeal acquisition over the last 10 years. The site's history as a timber port means we've been left with an amazing physical legacy. The docks closed in the 70s, they were mostly filled in, but this left us with 120 acres of parks and water adjoining our site, which gives us great building blocks to create a great place to live and work. And what's evolved over the last 40 years is a thriving local community with 30,000 residents, another 7 million visitors visiting our existing shopping centre. And this is a big advantage. The existing retail thrives, so we know we can improve this rapidly. And this is another critical component in creating a great place to live and work. And what we'll do is stitch into that community to create an amazing new piece of city, a new district for central London. With 3,000 homes, 1 million square foot of shops, restaurant and cultural uses, 2.5 million square foot of workspace, all of this built around 12 acres of new public spaces. And this feels like just the right place to do this. We already benefit from great infrastructure. That's rare for an opportunity of this scale. But what sets us apart is access to the future of London's workforce, because the data shows us that Canada Water is the best connected place for access to London's under 35 talent. Our consent is flexible, so we can respond in an agile way to changing customer needs, but it will remain truly mixed use. And we think that's absolutely critical in creating a great place for the future. And we'll adhere to 3 overriding principles throughout: public space first, architectural diversity, and sustainability as a priority. Great spaces make great places. We will deliver these ahead of the buildings, connecting into our surroundings, delivering an integrated piece of city connected to abundant green space. The quality and diversity of our spaces, the focus on people, the natural air quality advantages we have will make Canada Water a destination. We're working with different teams on different plots, reusing where we can, with architecture which is characterful and references the industrial heritage, and avoiding that pitfall of creating a place which feels soulless and generic. Our aspiration is that the end result feels more organic than masterplanned. Canada Water will be a net zero neighbourhood. It will be the largest cluster of BREEAM outstanding buildings in the UK. Our office buildings will be all electric. They'll target neighbours 5-star. They'll be well enabled, wired and smart score certified. But our ambitions here go very much beyond the badges. We want to set new standards. And social sustainability will be a big focus for us. We've spent a decade getting to know our local community. We've created a social regeneration charter to ensure the residents are beneficiaries of the development. And we're committed to not only preserve, but to enhance all of that local history and the character that's already there. We're now working at pace to deliver phase 1. We'll deliver 300,000 square foot of workspace, 200 private and 75 affordable resi units in 2024. This will include new public spaces, improvements to the dock itself, and this fantastic new bridge that will create a focal point for the heart of our master plan. Our first office buildings sit next to the station with views over the dock. The buildings will target different types of occupiers. The dock shed provides large floor plates for more established businesses with 60-metre dockfront terraces, a ground floor cafe with meeting rooms, basement leisure centre with swimming pool. This will be among the best HQs in London. 3 Dill Porters offers something different. Conceived as 3 smaller buildings with the ability to connect, our target occupier here is smaller. Our proposition will include Story, our flexible workspace business, and it will create an environment where high-growth businesses of the future can flourish. The continued evolution of the paper yard will support this. Conceived in response to a requirement from Teddy, London, and New University, we're now on site delivering 33,000 square foot of modular lab space, building to meet London's growing life science demand. This will deliver in May next year, and it should help establish a cluster of science occupiers at Canada Water who can then grow into our master plan. And that flexibility to support growth is a key part of BL's strategy and particularly important here. This will be one of the few places in London where business can be guaranteed to grow with the same landlord. And that will help position this as the exciting location for London's next wave of growth companies. Looking forward, we'll turn that vision into reality quickly. So we'll have a consistent supply of differentiated workspace delivered from 2025 until completion of the master plan. Our next 3 buildings will be a 300,000 square foot large floor plate AHM design, a similar size CL2 lab-enabled innovation building, and the Grand Press. Here we'll build on our track record of retrofitting and repurpose the old print press to create a new HQ building. And we're really excited about this. Apple's move to Battersea shows that the biggest brands in the world value this sort of space. and we'll deliver unique workspace in London's last industrial conversion scale. And in the remaining space of this building, we'll create a new cultural venue, building on the success of the Printworks venue, which Broadwick Live have been operating for the last few years. We're really excited about this as an anchor for the master plan. It will help cement Canada Water as a destination in London. So hopefully from this, you get a sense of why we are so excited about Canada Water, why we think this will not only be a great place to live and visit as it is today, but London's most exciting new place to work. A place that's truly mixed use with access to amazing green space, well connected to transport, pedestrian friendly, and which has sustainable values embedded in every part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Great presentation. And great to see how increased public space will positively benefit the local community. Interested to hear more during the Q&As. I'd now like to introduce our third speaker, Matt Flood, Office Leader Argent, who will present Brent Cross Town. Over to you, Matt.
Sorry, first mistake unmuting. Morning, everybody. Delighted to be part of this. There's obviously some fantastic work going on around London. So brilliant to be able to showcase what we're all up to and share some ideas. So firstly, just to introduce Brent Cross Town. So this is one of Europe's largest regeneration projects in the north of London. So we sit just inside the North Circular, and I'll come on to how the infrastructure will be dramatically changing in the coming years. It's a joint venture between London Borough of Barnet and ourselves, and I think partnership is key to all aspects of this scheme. Some key headlines: 180 acres, 10 million square foot, 7,000 homes, and up 3 million square foot of workspace. So a huge, genuinely new mixed-use town of real scale, and with that comes a privileged opportunity. So just to talk through 4 pledges which have really shaped what we want this scheme to be and really tried to give us a vision and purpose for the place. The first one is around sport and play. We want to create the place in London for sport and play. There's a huge focus on healthy lifestyles, our own well-being, and how that can improve our own productivity, and then obviously drive innovation beyond that. So we've got 50 acres of playing fields and parks, which we're going to transform into state-of-the-art facilities. And I think this will become a destination not just for the surrounding community, but for all of London. It'll be everything from skate parks, bouldering, parkour, through to more established sports like football, netball and hockey. Big focus on inclusivity. We're working with women in sport, a lot of charities around trying to encourage those that don't currently have those active, healthy lifestyles into participation. It's not about watching, it's about getting everybody from age 7 through to 70 involved in sport. And this has really resonated with those focusing on recruiting. The next pledge is around becoming a net zero carbon town by 2030. As I'm sure most of the audience know, that there's 2 strands to that, the operational and the embodied side. Operational, I think we've already made great strides. You know, as Mike said, we're moving to all electric, focused on renewable sources. One of the big moves we're doing here is we've partnered with Vattenfall to create a district heating and cooling network that's going to service the whole town using air source heat pumps. So they've committed to fossil-free living within a generation, and this will be a real benchmark scheme for their work in the UK. So we're really excited to partner with them. The second part is then the embodied carbon, and this, being honest, is the real challenge. Lots of initiatives and levers you can use: circular economy, innovative construction methods. But we believe timber is the one that's really going to be quite transformational. So all of our office buildings will be looking to use timber, either in sole mass timber buildings or as part of hybrid structures. And we think there's huge benefits to that. And we'd be delighted to welcome all of you up to the pavilion on site, which is a full timber building, just to really start to feel the impact that has on your mood and well-being when you walk into a space of that nature. But we're well on with construction, and as I say, hitting those stretch net zero embodied targets will be a key focus for us as we step through these early phases. The third pledge is around social value and wanting to create a flourishing town. Now, obviously, there's a huge amount of talk in our industry around how do we focus on well-being and improve lifestyles and obviously be a positive impact on the communities around us. What we want to do is really add some science to that. So we've been working with the University of Manchester and Bureau Happold to create a flourishing index. And what this will allow us to do is measure how people are feeling, both within the town and also the community surrounding it, to understand, are they flourishing? Are we having a positive impact on their lives, how they're feeling, how they're performing? And this will really allow us to then do a data-driven approach, create that feedback loop of how we then design future phases, how we operate the town to make sure we are creating an aspirational place, giving people these outdoor spaces, giving people active lifestyles and allowing them to really flourish. And then we can benchmark that against countries, against other schemes of this nature. And that's going to be really, really powerful part. And so this is Claremont Park, which we opened earlier this year, a new 5-acre park right up front in the development to give people access to that green space, which is a key part of flourishing. So you can see it's not just an academic exercise, there's real and tangible outputs that influence how we bring forward this scheme in the next few phases. So then the fourth pledge, was around connectivity. And I mentioned at the start, the infrastructure side. So the new Brent Cross West station will open mid this year. So that's a new station on the Thameslink line, which will take you into King's Cross in 12 minutes, through to London Bridge, Farringdon, and then to the south, to Brighton and north up into Hertfordshire, and then ultimately connecting with that Oxford-Cambridge arc. So our placing at the north of London really gives us fantastic connections, not just to the capital, but also the country. I think it's key that London faces outwards and allows people to make those connections to the UK regions as we increasingly focus on levelling up. I think we've got a great opportunity to do that. So I think what the aim is that these 4 pledges really come together to create a flourishing mixed-use town, and a cohesive and vibrant town. And we're putting a lot of work into making sure that the different uses speak to each other and are delivered. And we've got teams purely focusing on what is that ground floor experience, what's the retail, what's the amenity, the culture, the public realm. And that's going to really drive what people's perception and experience of Brent Cross Town is. So we're really putting that front and centre of the design process and how we step through this and bring it forward. And we think what it will do is make organisations, allow them to make a very tangible statement. So we're speaking to people about might want a resi presence, they might want an office presence, they might want to participate in community activities. So it's more giving people a platform rather than just trying to lease space on a standalone basis. And then from the workspace perspective, just to finish up, we were delighted to announce last year that Sheffield Hallam University are going to open their new campus here in 2025, 2026. So that will accommodate 3,000 to 5,000 students when fully operational. And this is going to be a massive anchor for us and really be a catalyst for establishing this new knowledge district at Brent Cross Town. They've got a massive specialism in health, sports, nutrition. And so they really saw how Brent Cross Town could resonate with what they were trying to achieve as an organisation, and bringing in like-minded partners around them who really start to see that value in clustering as we start to bring forward not just an office district, but a town focused on fostering healthier urban future founded on sustainability and better opportunities for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Great presentation. Great to see wellbeing, social value and sustainability prioritised, and interested to hear more about that flourishing index later on. Just to remind the audience, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, so please keep sending in your questions. I'd now like to introduce Kate Edmondson, Associate at Penroyd and Prasad, who will present Oriel, a new innovation hub in St Pancras and part of London's Knowledge Quarter. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Florence, and good morning, everybody. Oriel will be a new building for Moorfields Eye Hospital, UCL's Institute of Ophthalmology and Moorfields Eye Charity. It is a joint project between Penroyd and Prasad, ACOM and White Architecture, which we won in a competition in 2018. This building brings together world-leading eye care research and education under one roof. The ambition is to create a new integrated eye care facility that serves as a catalyst for radical new ways of working, and that will enable for the first time the seamless transition of new therapies from lab bench to first in human trials to clinical treatment. The client's vision is to create an environment for innovation to flourish and inspiring improvements in people's sight. I'll just wait for the slides to catch up. The site is in St Pancras and is strategically located within the emerging King's Cross Knowledge Quarter. This will enable it to engage and collaborate with the other world-leading institutions in the district, such as the Crick, the Wellcome Trust, and even Central St Martin's, the Art School. It is also close to the UCL Bloomsbury campus and several of the voluntary sector and charity partners. There are three key drivers that inform the design. The first is to create a magnetic new place. Oriel will be part of the area's evolving heritage, and so drawing inspiration from the past while looking to the future. It will act as a catalyst for urban renewal and will help transform St Pancras into a unique neighbourhood. Our urban strategy is to open up the site, creating a car-free, permeable and accessible campus that increases connectivity through and across the neighbourhood. 2 new squares collect people coming from all directions and provide civic settings for the building's 2 entrances. A route through the building forms part of the urban network. The public realm flows through the building and connects to the surrounding streets and spaces. This invites the public in. The ground floor is activated by cafes and retail units located at the entrances, as well as education spaces, a conference suite, and other public and patient facilities. At the heart of the building is the atrium, a covered public space. The atrium is also where Oriel engages with the public through its Arts and Science on Show programme. A series of curated, temporary and permanent exhibitions will be incorporated throughout the building. People will be able to come here to learn about science and health in the same way that you might go to the British Museum or the Science Museum to discover more. The second design driver is that of collaboration and integration. The project is all about transcending silos, promoting cross-disciplinary working, and in particular, encouraging collaboration between staff, students, and patients. At the heart of the building, these informal spaces are stacked, through which all users will pass to maximize cross-fertilization. At this structure, at the center, is what we call the Oriel. This rises up through the atrium and hosts the main circulation, vertical and horizontal. It links the surrounding departments through bridges across the atrium. Through co-locating waiting areas, staff touchdown space, and meeting points, we aim to facilitate those proverbial water cooler moments. The third driver is that of the adaptive building, in line with circular economy principles. So Oriel's brief is highly innovative and embraces the inevitability of change. So the shell and core has been designed as a flexible rig with a series of generic floor plates that can accommodate these diverse range of functions within the brief. The building has been designed in layers, designing out waste through prefabrication and pre-assembly, such as the unitized facade and modular internal partitions. We also tested the building's capacity to cater for wholesale programmatic changes, potentially being repurposed for either offices, student accommodation, or even a hotel. The site is compact for the accommodation required and is also within a conservation area. The massing has been carefully calibrated to mediate between the scale of the historic city to the south and the emerging developments to the north. A series of setbacks at 6th floor maintain a sense of scale at the street level whilst responding to the different contexts around the building. A highly serviced building such as this makes reducing carbon a complex challenge. The passive design and fabric first approach aims to minimize energy use in the first instance. This is an all-electric building, so that as the national grid decarbonizes, so will the building. It is designed for a post-fossil fuel future. One of Oriel's key objectives is to create the best possible patient experience, which is so critical to improving patients' outcomes. People's Sight Matters is a clear statement of inclusion that takes into account everyone's needs and varying degrees of sight capacity. We have to consider all patient groups, as well as those living with neurodiverse conditions, disability, anxiety, or injury. Many patients with visual impairment are frail or elderly and may also be neurodegenerative. So reducing stress and anxiety through the design is critical. Wayfinding is enhanced through a clear hierarchy of materials and colours that leads people into and around the building, supplemented by digital technologies. The overall look and feel for this clinical facility is to not feel clinical, to be more welcoming and with the aim of improving the experience of all users. We work closely with the patient group to develop an interior design strategy that is fully accessible for the visually impaired and engages with all the senses. The use of biophilia, natural materials, plenty of daylight with places to sit and rest means that the design aims to create a healthy and healing environment. On the outside, the facade responds to both the street scale and the urban scale. Its orthogonal and standardized geometry contrasts with the curvilinear form of the building, and the syncopated rhythm of solid and void creates a playful pattern across the elevations. This high-performing unitized facade is part of the project's commitment to sustainability. The color and materiality of the bronzed aluminium and opalescent ceramic tiles draws on the heritage of the area and will contrast and complement the Victorian brickwork and its traditional faience detailing. Inspired by the Moorfields motto, "Let there be light," the facade will create an ever-changing play of shadows through the day. And finally, a south-facing terrace on the roof on the 6th floor level, which provides outdoor social, work and event space for staff and students, with visual connections to the treetops of St Pancras Gardens and views over London beyond. Oriel is a truly collaborative place. It will help integrate the contributions of clinicians, researchers and patients with the engagement of the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Really interesting presentation that highlights the role of design in encouraging collaboration, which is key in creating successful innovation. So really interesting. I'd now like to hand over to our final speaker, Agnieszka Gluaka, Associate Director at Haptic Architects, who will present the London Cancer Hub, a new Centre for Cancer Innovation in Sutton. Over to you, Agnieszka.
The art.
Well, oh, there we go. You were muted.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. How can we design a state-of-the-art life science campus to help scientists make discoveries that will change millions of lives? This is the challenge and central question in designing the London Cancer Hub. When complete, the development will offer more than 280,000 square meters of integrated life science buildings, including facilities for cancer research, diagnosis, treatment, education, and commercial collaboration. The site of the London Cancer Hub is part of the London Life Science Cluster, and together with Oxford and Cambridge forms the golden triangle of life science in the UK. It will also become one of 3 outstanding life science clusters in London alongside Imperial West and the Francis Crick Institute. The London Cancer Hub is a partnership between the Institute of Cancer Research London and the London Borough of Sutton, who commissioned us, working in close collaboration with the Royal Marsden, the Greater London Authority, and Epsom and St Helier University Hospital NHS Trust. There are significant challenges. The complex site has been developed in a piecemeal fashion and currently lacks legibility, partly due to the dominance of cars and surface car parking. You can see that the existing campus is isolated and disconnected. We're looking at a grey and uninspiring environment which is congested with cars. So how can we design for science? How can we plan for a state-of-the-art life science campus to help scientists make discoveries that will change millions of lives? And most importantly, how can we create a district that brings together science and innovation? These are the challenges and central questions to our strategic master plan. The site is under multiple ownership, and the key aspects of making this project happen is to have everyone, all 4 parties on board and working together. The current ownership boundaries are to be essentially dissolved, and the whole site seen as one, with all parties sharing the infrastructure costs and amenities. Collaboration is key. In order to create this vibrant new district, the London Cancer Hub will be established around the ABCD approach, building on the major institutions already located on the site. Innovative institutions and workers need proximity to seamlessly transfer ideas, collaborate across disciplines, and generate value with new solutions. We looked at the best examples around, working in partnership with Nordic Office of Architecture. We drew from our experience of designing healthcare and life sciences in Scandinavia, developing a vision for an open, green, and equitable campus. Alongside an outstanding healing environment for patients, the campus also offers attractive work and leisure space for researchers, clinicians, and the community. In spatial terms, this will require different uses to be co-located across the site, like shown in this indicative diagram of vertical integration, with most active uses located on the ground floor. This is to encourage interaction of people, departments, and the previously mentioned A, B, C, D components. We introduced 4 themes central to the development: healthy living, innovation district, flexibility, and collaboration. Here you can see the boards we created for communicating these themes to the project stakeholders and when explaining the project to the local community. A healthy living environment where architecture is well connected to the landscape and where families can stay in close proximity to their loved ones in a patient hotel. Facilities that encourage sport and general recreation. An innovation district with a vibrant mix of world-class research, treatment, and commercial space. Connectivity, mobility, and flexibility to increase the competitiveness of the London Cancer Hub offer, whilst reducing the dominance of cars on site. And the last theme highlights collaboration, open spaces to facilitate collaboration and knowledge sharing. The hub is about developing a collaborative ecosystem, the key to bringing about science and innovation. This plan illustrates how the London Cancer Hub could look in 20 years' time. The site is well connected and easy to move around. There exists a well-integrated mix of academic, business, and clinical activities. Within the site, there are several new focal points where neighbourhood amenities are located and facilitate interaction and inspire all those using and visiting the space. Our guiding principles were to create a flexible urban structure with a clear hierarchy of routes and public space. It results in a hub vertically integrated and connected. You can see here the smaller streets and the bridge links connecting the buildings. Permeability across the site is improved with a central green spine and well-marked entrance. This green spine will form a 30-metre wide artery at the centre of a series of gardens, bike lanes, and walkways leading into the buildings themselves. These will also have a mixture of private and semi-private amenity space where scientists can mix with each other as well as with clinicians and counterparts in industry. For the benefit of all those with cancer, the hub will develop world-leading programs for research, treatment, and enterprise, and offer an outstanding environment for all those who use the site, including patients, staff, and the wider community. The plan is to entirely remodel the existing site to create a green campus of research and enterprise buildings and hospital facilities. The site will be designed as a living community with a school, leisure space, and hotel accommodation for visitors and patients. As the site is under multiple ownership, we devised a clear pathway for development in a series of waves. This phase strategy has led to the early delivery of the Harris Academy, a specialist secondary STEM school, and a Maggie's Centre alongside the Centre of Cancer Drug Discovery. A £500 million acute care hospital and cancer centre is also underway. We're currently working with the local borough of Sutton to identify a development partner for over 500,000 square feet in the north of the site to be developed in Wave 1. This will include a pioneering knowledge centre, a concept brought forward by the team and supported by the Institute for Cancer Research as part of their future expansion. To conclude, the London Cancer Hub will bring together the best scientists, clinicians, and innovators from across the world to collaborate in a new district of shared spaces, both inside and out, helping scientists make discoveries that will change millions of lives and put science on show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Really interesting presentation there as well. And thank you to all of our speakers today. I now would like to bring you all together for a few Q&As, a few questions. I think we'll kick off with a question from Michael here. Thank you for sharing your work. Can you expand on how you're going beyond badges to set new standards?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always talk to customers about the badges are the easy things. You know, Matt will know this as well. Occupier goes around a presentation in London, everyone says we've got all the great badges, and that's fine. Most of those are planning requirements anyway, as we know. But for us, it's looking at how we can innovate, and we've got an opportunity here similar to a Brent Cross, like delivering at this sort of scale. We've got lots of different teams working across lots of different projects. We can innovate, we can challenge, we can learn, we can leverage the benefits that scale brings to look at new ways of doing things. And a good example of that, we've got a BREEAM innovation credit for our approach to sharing heat between resi and office uses in one building, and that's something that we've rolled out across the master plan. We're doing quite a lot around material innovation to look at how we can reduce embodied carbon, because as Matt's pointed out, that is the big challenge for our industry. So those are the sorts of things that we're working on and we're really focused on.
Great. And maybe a question to all of our speakers. From Mark here, serendipity is vital for innovation, enabling entrepreneurs, investors, and inventors to mix and spark off each other? How is this allowed for in these hubs? I'll open that up to whoever wants to kick off.
I can kick off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, those spaces where innovators can share ideas and bounce things back and forward are really important. Speaking of shift, I mean, on the park, I think the kind of physical workspaces are vital. So we've got places like Plexel and Workable that are those co-working spaces for different sectors and people from different backgrounds. I think events that bring investors and innovators together to facilitate those conversations. And with Shift, like I said in my presentation, we're working on developing a network, both online and offline, that helps to sort of turbocharge that. With our trials, I think engaging the wider community of innovators in the testing phase can help to bounce ideas back and forth, but also help innovators refine their ideas further. And I think just finally, one thing I'd say, like, whilst serendipity is absolutely vital, so also is kind of structure and process in innovation. So having more of those things in place, like clear objectives that are shared amongst different partners, a clear mission that brings people together, and clear challenge statements that are researched and well defined, can really help to kind of accelerate the movement from ideas into action.
Great. Does anyone want to give it a shot? Maybe Matt?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was great summing up the various strands to it. You need physical spaces. You then need the kind of operational layer that helps be the glue and bring people together. I think also one thing we have to kind of tread a line on almost is the values of clustering and the serendipity versus the inclusivity, because there's a tendency to say, right, we need to stick a label on something and we're going to be the home for X or Y. And you don't want them people to feel that actually, well, that's not for me because I'm not necessarily directly involved with that. Where I think the real value comes in the diversity and having a genuinely inclusive place where all people feel they can play a role with it, rather than it's just reserved for a certain sector or a certain type of business. So I don't have an answer to it. I think that's just something we're certainly conscious of that kind of specialism versus inclusivity, and how you kind of manage that slight tension there. It's interesting.
Great. We've just got a question here coming through to Kate and Katrina. What have we learned about actual sharing of knowledge between different kinds of organisations? This person works with Central St Martin's. They don't think we have any knowledge sharing with the CRIC. So maybe we'll start with that, and then we'll come back to Kate and Katrina for two other questions here. Maybe Kate, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely a tricky area. Like with Oriel, there's a wide range of stakeholders, from the patients to the staff to the students, and then the wider area. And I think it's at the start of this journey of relocating from Old Street up to St Pancras and being in this new location, in this new hub. And I think we're just finding our feet within that district to start with. But there's definitely, I think for Oriel, it's about having that public route and that public space coming through the atrium and providing those spaces that other people can use. And I think it's having those opportunities that will start to open out to others to come in from the community, but then also be able to share the education and learning from UCL out into the wider realm.
Great. And Katrina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question around knowledge sharing. I think it's something that Shift is kind of, we're in the early stages in terms of bringing these partners together as a formalized sort of innovation district. And that's something that we really intend to facilitate over the coming years. At Plexel and here East, it's worked really well, but I wouldn't be the best person to speak to that. I think you'd need to get Plexel on board one of these events. But Shift, in bringing people together, does intend to kind of develop that best practice around knowledge sharing, particularly between kind of community organizations and local authorities, and different sectors and people from different backgrounds that don't often come together, and measuring how that works and providing the best practice.
Great. And another question here from Jonathan, with laboratories being planned for Canada Water and ambitions to build research and R&D, are there any particular sectors that British Land will be targeting?
Yeah, look, Canada Water, it's quite a broad church. So we were also delivering laboratory space at Regent's Place on the Euston Road, and that's sort of much I suppose much more specific demand around people who desperately want to be in the Knowledge Quarter. We're seeing quite broad interest at Canada Water, but I suppose a stronger chemistry focus and some of those requirements that can't really be met in more densely populated areas. But we're expecting a pretty broad range of occupiers coming in.
Great. And a question to Agnieszka. Someone wanted to know what the yellow was used on your elevations in your design. If you don't mind speaking on that.
It's a good question, very detailed question. But no, thank you very much. So yes, obviously it is an indicative design. This is a master plan project, so we're showing indicative buildings, but ultimately, yellow really is there to kind of signify that this is going to be a really inspiring place, really happy place, and a nice place to be, and an uplifting environment for everyone that comes in and uses the space. It's not really a specific kind of, the color isn't sort of specific to sort of research or anything, but or to the client at the moment. But I think it's to indicate that kind of uplifting space and happy environment that we hope to create.
Great, thank you. And a final question for Matt here. The Brent Cross development is on the boundary with London Borough of Brent. How is the proposed development working positively at a cross-borough level in terms of delivering cross-community benefits?
That's a great question. Yeah, we are on the boundary, and I know our colleagues at Barnet liaise very closely with their counterparts at Brent to make sure it is joined up. I mean, just for an example, so the flourishing index, which I mentioned, which is there to assess the impact of our scheme on those wider communities, is looking at everybody within a half-hour radius of the site. So that would cross borough boundaries and just looks at the kind of holistic impact irrespective of where they happen to sit. And the new station, for example, Brent Cross West, has both an east and west access into the station to link in those communities on the other side of the tracks, which fall into Brent pretty quickly. So yeah, hopefully there is a holistic approach, and I know Brent are looking to bring forward some master planning exercises around their adjacent land. So it'd be great if that continued to be collaborative.
Great, fantastic. So we're a bit early, but I think we'll finish there. I just want to thank all of our speakers for their contributions and their fantastic presentations today, and everyone in the audience for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and see you again very soon. Thank you and have a great day.